So a couple of years ago, I got introduced on Twix. It used to be called Twitter, and now it's called X. So naturally, I call it Twix. Anyway, I connected with a UK-based author and podcast host by the name of Geoff Jones. Trust me, just because we share the same surname doesn't make us related. At least I don't think so. Anyway, there's a lot of Joneses out there, especially in Wales, so maybe distantly, but that's not the point. Uh, to return the favor of being interviewed in an episode of his podcast, I invited Geoff onto my show as a guest host, so here he is providing his top 10 book recs.
Hello, I'm Geoff Jones, host of the Geoff Jones and Friends Make It Better podcast, co-host of Cereal Milk, producer of Geoff Flicks, and the author of children's book Teacher's Day Off. I'm absolutely delighted to bring you my top 10 book recommendations. Here we go. So at number 10, we've got Dead After Dark by Sherrilyn and Kenyon. I love Dead After Dark because it combines kind of these two addictive elements of that paranormal excitement and everyone's guilty pleasure, a little bit of romance. It offers an escape into a world of dark fantasy where danger lurks, but at the heart of it, there's this kind of a passionate love story. At number 9 is The Giver by Lois Lowry. So I'm not going to lie, I love a bit of a dystopian. And this is set in a dystopian society that at first glance, as it always does, seems perfect. Everything is controlled, emotions, memories, choices. The story follows Jonas, who's like this, 11, 12-year-old kid, and he's selected to be the new receiver of memory. And this is like a huge honor in their society. And he trains under the Giver, and his knowledge kind of makes Jonas just question the way his world is structured. At number 8, so I've got the Outsider for my number 8. And it starts with this kind of brutal crime in this small town, and all the evidence points to this well-respected teacher, and who's also like a Little League coach. But what makes it so good is it starts out as this kind of classic crime thriller, but then Stephen King just absolutely pulls the rug out from under us with this terrifying supernatural twist. Sorry. Number 7 is, I suppose it's a little left field, especially considering the rest of the list, but it's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas by Hunter S. Thompson. It's just wild, right? It's wild, it's chaotic. It's kind of this journey through an American counterculture culture of the 60s and 70s. It follows journalist Raoul Duke and his attorney, Dr. Gonzo, as they embark on this kind of drug-fueled trip to Las Vegas under this absolute pretense of covering a motorcycle race. Number 6. So we've got The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. Yes, it's another dystopian future. If you've not seen it, then basically, in short, the nation of Pan Am is divided into these kind of 12 districts, all under the oppression of the rule of the capital. What they do is they kind of force each of these 12 districts to send 2 tributes, a boy and a girl, to participate in the Hunger Games, which is like this televised fight to the death. Number 5, it's time for some culture, and I've chosen An Inspector Calls by J.B. Priestley. And it's a play set in 1912, which focuses on the wealthy Berlin family who are celebrating an engagement dinner when suddenly they're interrupted by Inspector Good. And he informs them that a young woman has eked herself off, and each member of the family is somehow connected to her. Number 4 is a timeless classic, and it's A Christmas Carol by a little-known author and playwright named Charles Dickens. If you've not heard of him, do Google him. Number 3, but it is another dystopian tale. It's Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. So I guess I should start by saying that I actually loved the movie for this. And watch the film before reading the book, which I suppose lots of people do these days. I actually prefer it because if I read the book then watch the film, I get angry. Whereas if I watch the film then read the book, it explains more, kind of like a user manual. Number 2, and what do we want? More Stephen King. This time it's Misery, a psychological horror about a successful author famous for Victorian romance series. Basically, after finishing his latest book, he decides it's the end of the series. While he's like driving through a snowstorm, he gets in an accident and he's rescued by Annie Wilkes, a former nurse and the author's #1 fan. And she takes him to this remote home to recover. Now, at first, Annie seems like a caring saviour, but it really becomes obvious quite quickly that, she's unwell. And my #1, but of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, I've read it several times from the age of probably 14 to the very young, sprightly 42 I am now, most recently last year. And just every time, it's like reading it for the first time, and I hope the ending's different. For those of you who've not read it, it's just this heartbreaking story set during the Great Depression in America, following these kind of two displaced ranch workers, George and Lenny, as they chase this dream of owning a piece of land. Right. Thank you for putting up with the change in my hairstyles, and listen to my top 10. If there's something in there that you've not read or not picked up for a while, then I hope that you give it a go. Otherwise, keep reading. Thank you very much. I have been Geoff Jones. I should say that. I'm not very good at promotion.
A big thank you goes out to Geoff for being this month's Top 10's presenter. I'll have more information about him later in the video.